No matter if points are gained or points are lost, there will be much to discuss. For analysis regarding tonight's Winnipeg Jets game, here are Dave Minuk, Ezra Ginsburg, and your host, Drew Mindell. The Illegal Curve post-game show starts now.
Good evening, Winnipeg. Good evening, Manitoba. And for everybody watching across the interweb, good evening, universe, and welcome to the Illegal Curve post-game show. The Winnipeg Jets lose to the Dallas Stars tonight by a score of 3-2. And the Dallas Stars, I think, if they weren't already being taken seriously, I think you have to take them seriously now. First place in the Central, looking like a really good team. Without further ado, though, I am your host, Ezra Ginsburg, and to my right is not Dave Minuk or Drew Mindell. It's legendary Winnipeg sportscaster Joe Pascucci joining us live from Toronto. Joe, thank you so much for filling in. Obviously, Drew and Dave, have better things to do than host the Illegal Curve post-game show. So, Joe, thank you so much for filling in. How are you?
I'm very good, Ezzy. And you know what? I'm just going to follow your lead. You will be Barrios. I'll try not to be Kikuchi, and I'll leave all the analytics up to you because I don't believe them. I believe in the eye test more than the analytics.
I agree with you. And that's a scary thing if you're taking my lead, Joe. But yeah, I was going to spend at least 90% of the show talking about expected goals and Corsi and Fenwick. So I hope you're up to the challenge. But, Joe, heading into this game, obviously, 1 point separating these two teams. Everybody knew that, this was a meeting of two of the best teams in the Central and maybe arguably, two of the best teams in the West, with apologies to the Vegas Golden Knights and the Colorado Avalanche. And it was...
And the Vancouver Canucks?
Sure, exactly. We talked about them on this Saturday show. Drew brought the Canucks up. I don't think a lot of people, expected the Canucks to be this far ahead of the Edmonton Oilers at this point in the season. I can't give up an opportunity to, give it to the Oilers, who have only won 2 games this year, and they lost the toilet bowl the other night to the San Jose Sharks. So, the Dallas Stars, we knew were a very good hockey team. And I think you'd agree it was a bit of a chess match, a little bit of a slow start. You had that Cole Perfetti chance where he rang it off the iron in the first period, but it was a fairly even first period. And then, clearly the Stars took over in the second period, scoring 3 goals to the Jets 1, led by Matt Duchene, Wyatt Johnston. I mean, what were your kind of overall thoughts about this game? Because clearly, this Stars team, as we mentioned earlier, this is a legitimate Stanley Cup contender again this year.
Yeah, I almost I would disagree with you. One thing, I didn't think that there was an even game in the first period. I thought that the Stars dominated. I saw that was kind of like 3 different games. The first part of that first period, the Stars really did dominate. They seemed to control everything. The Jets did have their chances, but the Stars just seemed to be more disciplined. They got the puck out of their zone, I don't think, without any stress, in that first period. They just easily got it out. And the Jets, it was a struggle for them in the first 10 minutes. They did have some great chances in that first period. Wedgwood, let out some real juicy rebounds in the first period. He got that under control later in the game. But in the first period, if the Jets had some players in position, they would have easily potted in a couple of goals in the first. And Perfetti's goal in the second came off a big rebound from Wedgwood. So, in the second period, as you're right, the Stars just took over. And unfortunately, some uncharacteristic mistakes for this season by Mark Scheifele. He's played really well. This wasn't one of his better defensive games. He got it back in the third period. And then the third period, after that first power play by Dallas that the Jets killed off, the Jets seemed to control the rest of the game, and I thought they had some great chances, but Wedgwood wasn't letting out any big rebounds anymore. And, the one goal that they did get on him, great shot by Brendan Dillon from the point, thanks to Tyler Seguin for providing the screen.
I was going to say there was some pretty good traffic in front there. I think Brendan Dillon himself was surprised that puck went in, because I think it was not Alex Iafallo who was in front of the net as well, providing some traffic, right?
Yeah, but I think it was Seguin who was the actual one doing the screening. I think Iafallo had been pushed off to the side, but Seguin, I think, was the guy in front. And, it went in. Beautiful shot. I've seen Morrissey score a number of those goals in the past, right? Yeah. So, that, and then the Jets, they had their chances to score and get that tying goal, but They didn't get it, but all in all, a good game. A good game by the Jets. I mean, it's early in the season. I would disagree. I don't know if you can say they're one of the top teams in the Western Division. I think they're going to get there, but I don't think right now that they are one of the top teams.
Well, I think you would agree, though, on this, though, Joe. The Winnipeg Blue Bombers are a top team in the West Division, and the favorite. That game starts in less than an hour. Of course, see that game on TSN.
Yeah.
And obviously, we're going to be pulling for the Bombers, so we're going to try to keep the post-game show to around an hour. Sometimes we go a little bit over an hour and we do 70 minutes or so, but I think we know that a lot of people are going to be wanting to tune into that Bombers-Lions game coming up in about an hour, a little bit less than an hour.
Well, especially what's happening in the Eastern final with the Argos, about to lose, the 16-2 Argos pulling off a 1989 Edmonton Eskimos repeat.
Unbelievable.
So, and and if the Bombers are fortunate enough to get past, the BC Lions today, they've never played Montreal in the Grey Cup.
No.
And that would mean that the Bombers have played every other CFL team in the Grey Cup. They'd be the only team that's ever done that.
Unbelievable. Obviously going for their third Grey Cup in 4 years. And I'm not sure if it was reported if Nick Dembski is going to be playing. I know he was a game time decision. That would obviously be huge. We were talking to Teddy Wyman of the Winnipeg Sun on this morning show. He thought Nick Dembski was going to play. So obviously that gives the Bombers a great option on the ground and in the air, right, Joe? And, I wanted to go back to, we were talking about, the goaltending earlier, Scott Wedgwood. That was a surprise. I think most people thought that it was going to be Jake Ottinger, right? Because I believe that was only Wedgwood's fourth start of the season or third start of the season. Jake Ottinger is obviously having an incredible year, but Wedgwood entered this game with a .911 save percentage, right? So it's not like Wedgwood has been in the NHL for quite a while.
Mm-hmm.
He's a veteran NHL backup. He was with the Devils before. He's been with a few teams, but he was really impressive to me, right? Like he didn't steal the game, but Joe, you mentioned some chances in the third period off of face-off. Connor got it to Mark Scheifele. He had a really good quick release shot. Wedgwood had to make the glove save. And then even Kyle Connor's chance, with 5 seconds left in the game, Wedgwood had to, come right to left and he made a save. So I thought he was really impressive considering that we thought it was going to be Ottinger.
Well, I mean, then the Stars are playing the Wild tomorrow. And I heard one of the other pregame shows today, and they were talking about whether this was a statement game or not for the Winnipeg Jets. I would say it's not a statement game. It's more of a measuring stick game.
Yep.
Right. That's, and I think they measure up not too bad. But I think for the Dallas Stars, obviously they have more concern about tomorrow's game in Minnesota than they did about today's game against the Jets. And I think that's why Ottinger was being saved for tomorrow afternoon. So, the Jets are going to get their respect as the season goes along, but right now they still have to earn it. And,
sure.
They put up a good performance today.
I would agree with you, Joe. And when you think about, they've lost already twice to the Vegas Golden Knights, right? And they've lost to the Dallas Stars, but they've, as Drew mentioned, I hate to steal a Mandelism, but the Jets have been beating the teams they should beat this year, right? Like most recently, Nashville, St. Louis, Arizona. This is their first loss in division this year. The Jets are 1-4 now in the Central Division, and we want to welcome everybody to the Illegal Curve post-game show presented by Betway. Ezra Ginsburg here, your host. Weird to say that because I'm rarely ever the host. It's usually Drew or Dave, but I'm glad to be joined by legendary Winnipeg sports broadcaster Joe Pascucci, joining us from Toronto. He's got the great vintage Jets jersey, and Joe mentioned to me prior to us going live that was actually a specialty Moose 1.0 jersey.
Yeah.
I thought that was from I think that is the WHA Jets logo, if I'm not mistaken, or
the 1972 Jets logo.
So I remember seeing that jersey because my dad growing up, all he talked about was how good the the Bobby Hull Hedberg Nielsen line was. So it was a treat for me when I was, I guess, late 20s. I'm 41 now, so over 10 years ago, we got to meet those three together, and we got their autograph and everything like that. But so I love that Jets jersey. And so we're going to get into the Betway game recap here shortly. Wanted to also just get your take on, the size of the Stars team. Like it was mentioned on the broadcast that this is the third or fourth oldest team in the league. I don't know if they're the biggest team, but when you look at Thomas Harley, we'll get into that goal, as I mentioned in the Betway game recap. But, Hakanpää, Jamie Benn, You know, like it's a big team, and we talked about how much skill there is, but that's another thing that stood out to me in this game. It wasn't the most physical game. Like last game against the Predators, you know, Adam Lowry had to drop the gloves twice in the first period. So it wasn't like the Stars were, you know, it wasn't Scott Stevens all over the ice. But that's another thing that stood out to me that, you know, kind of reminds you of the Vegas Golden Knights. Big defense, Miro Heiskanen, Esa Lindell. Like it seemed like every single defenseman tonight was 6'3", 6'4" for the Stars.
Yeah, and I thought the Jets had trouble getting to the front of the net. I mean, there was that sequence late in the third period where Suter's just keeping Scheifele away, right? And Scheifele just can't get away, just can't get around him, just can't get through him, and and gets knocked down to the ice. He's looking for a penalty. I mean, the Stars did a very good job keeping the Jets away from the front of the net, and maybe taking advantage of those juicy rebounds that Wedgwood was giving up in the first period.
Yeah, I would agree with that. Joe, let's get into the Betway game recap, and then we'll go over the 5 goals that were scored tonight. I got to pull up my banner here for the Illegal Curve Betway post-game recap. Hold on. See, I'm not used to doing this.
The Betway game recap.
There we go. Got it. Betway game recap, of course, brought to you by Betway, the title sponsor of the Illegal Curve post-game show. Betway is your #1 destination for online sports betting. Download the Betway sports app today. Must be 19 years of age to play. Please play responsibly. So we want to get into the Betway game recap and all the goals right now. We talked about it. There were no goals in the first period. There were a couple of good scoring chances, but I think you'd agree that it was a little bit on the low event side. I know that's a cliche that you hear a lot in hockey these days, but the first goal that scored obviously, comes in a bit of a kind of a weird situation. The Jets are scrambling a little bit in their own zone here, and obviously, the goal comes early. What was it? A couple minutes into the second period.
And the Jets are just coming off a power play, right? And
yes.
It was at the end of and the power play was over. And you're right, they seemed to be scrambling around at that point.
Yeah, and we mentioned Thomas Harley earlier. Just getting the highlight up on my screen here. Thomas Harley scores the goal, but maybe Joe, you take over here. But Thomas Harley was left alone in front of the net, and it was just a kind of he kind of got lost in the play. I think it was it Jason Robertson who had the scoring chance earlier. And then Thomas Harley was just left alone, and he had all types of time, and he buried it past Connor Hellebuck.
Yeah, I mean, and the play was the play that led up to the goal was that came at the blue line there, where Iafallo and Scheifele just skated by the puck, or the puck missed. They couldn't clear it, both of them, and and then so the Jets were now all of a sudden outnumbered in their own zone. The players are going the wrong way. And, then Hartley's right in front, and there's the goal, and no chance, I don't think, for Hellebuck on that one. I don't think, if we look ahead, I don't think Hellebuck had a chance on any of the goals today. So that was just a mistake on the Jets' part. They're, defensively, they kind of broke down way too often in that second period, and that was just the beginning of it.
Yeah, and you mentioned, the breakdown in the defensive zone, and I mean, Dallas, we know, I mean, they're a very good offensive team, a very good defensive team. It was Ryan Suter, that got the puck over to Thomas Harley on the first Stars goal there. Sorry, I was struggling. I'm trying to, do all my hosting stuff behind the scenes here. And then I got the goal up on the NHL.com replay here. So, yeah, I mean, it was a little bit scrambly from the Jets. And obviously, the Stars came out really hard. As you mentioned, you thought the Stars were the better team. I won't disagree with you, Joe, on that one. I mean, whether you give them a slight edge or not, the Stars had the better scoring chances through the first couple periods, especially in the second.
Yes.
And obviously, Thomas Harley, a young defenseman, he's a first-round pick. He's a guy that spent most of last year in the American Hockey League. Dave M would have watched him more because, of course, Texas is in the Manitoba Moose division. But Miro Heiskanen, Ryan Suter, like you hear about these guys a lot more, but Thomas Harley, you forget, first round pick and big guy. So he's a big part of the Stars' future. So I thought that was look, it wasn't a pretty goal, but it was a hard-working goal from Dallas, created by Jason Robertson and some others crashing the net in front of Connor Hellebuck there. And then obviously, we'll get into this next goal. And I think that's one that you were referring to, Joe, with Cole Perfetti coughing up the puck there to Wyatt Johnston. And obviously Wyatt Johnston, another first-round pick, a guy that, had a breakout year last year. I believe this is his third year, maybe second year, because he's only 20 years old. But Wyatt Johnston, a really good player in the Ontario Hockey League. I think he had 120 points or something like that one season for Windsor, if I'm not mistaken. I know that Perfetti played for Saginaw, but what did you see on this goal, aside from obviously the bad turnover? Because I mean, this is a beautiful shot, Wyatt Johnston short side on Hellebuck.
Yeah, I just that whole Jets power play seemed to be a mess, and then the Stars got the puck into the Jet zone. The puck came along the boards to Perfetti, and instead of taking it out, he brought it back in, inside the Jet zone, and then there was a chance there for Mark Scheifele. I don't want to pick on Mark Scheifele. He's had a great season. Okay, he's played a hell of a lot better defensively this year. But okay, that one, he did a flyby.
Absolutely, that was a flyby. Yeah,
and that just a direct pass to the net, right? That was just a direct pass to the net after that, and it's 2-0 for Dallas. So, Perfetti makes the mistake bringing the puck back into the Jet zone, and Mark Scheifele makes the mistake by just, I don't know if he even tried to use his stick. He just did a flyby.
Yeah, there were for sure two mistakes on that play, and I think they were almost both equally as bad, right? Because as you mentioned, Perfetti brings the puck instead of moving the puck or maybe just passing it off the boards. He brings the puck back in. So Wyatt Johnston, good on him. He turns the puck over, but also Scheifele's got to get a body in front of Johnston, or he's got to get a stick, or as you say, something.
Got to do something.
Yeah, instead of just turning up the ice thinking that Perfetti's going to get the puck, and then Wyatt Johnston goes in. And he's obviously, it's I don't know if you want to call it a breakaway, but there's nobody left behind. It's only Connor Hellebuck who's left, and it's a nice short side shot. Fortunately, we're going to get into, Perfetti makes it 2-1 and cuts the deficit. So he makes up for that. But clearly, I mean, that was one of those plays where, the coaching staff is going to say, you got to be better at managing that situation. Down 1-0 against the Stars team, who we talked about. They're, I think, the 4th or 5th best defensive team in the league when it comes to goals against.
Mm-hmm.
And you're not going to score 4 or 5 goals on the Stars on most nights. So yeah, that was just a bad turnover and a bad decision by Scheifele. And I agree with you, Joe. Like, I think Scheifele has taken a lot of criticism over the years for his defensive play, and obviously he's known for being an offensive player. But I think you got to give him credit. Early on this season, he has looked like a better defensive player.
Yeah.
I don't think anybody's going to call him Guy Carbonneau, just yet, but I think that, Scheifele, you have to give him, his credit when he's playing the best hockey of his career, arguably right now. But yeah, on that particular play, I agree with you. These first 2 goals, you can't fault Hellebuck at all. I mean, that's just a nice shot by Wyatt Johnston, but that's definitely an egregious turnover. Getting into the next goal, and clearly, I mean, this is kind of a pretty simple goal. It's a, Nick Ehlers shot, Cole Perfetti rebound. I love the work that Vlad Nemesnikov does on this goal. He just hangs on to it. And it seems like he drew everyone's attention, on the Dallas Stars. And, people forgot that, Cole Perfetti was streaking. So nice pass by Ehlers, but I love the work that Nemesnikov does, bringing the puck into the Star zone and just holding on to it long enough, getting it over to Nick Ehlers.
Yeah, and there was the key to mention there was the rebound, and there was somebody there to put it in, right? And where that didn't happen in the first period when Wedgwood was coughing up those juicy rebounds, there was nobody there for the Jets to put it in. On this occasion, Perfetti was there. Wedgwood was able to actually get a stick on it a little bit, right? But it went in. So that's good on the Jets, to come back and get that goal, turn the momentum somewhat around. And I thought Ehlers had a really strong game today. I was kind of hoping that they would play him more because he seemed to be, causing Dallas, some fits by bringing the puck up the ice, gaining the zone, and some of his shots, creating some opportunities. So I thought Ehlers had a strong game. I know he's not had the season that he would like, but this was a good one in my opinion from him.
Absolutely. I would agree with you. And that's something we talked about on this morning's show. The Scheifele line and the Lowry line, they've been driving the bus offensively for most of the season. And not that, Perfetti, I think he's on a 4 or 5 game point streak.
Mm-hmm.
And I agree with you. I mean, I thought that line was their best line. I'd have to check natural stat trick to see if, the possession numbers, back that up. But certainly the eye test.
The eye test. I love the eye test.
Oh, the eye test. I mean, that it used to only be the eye test before the world of analytics, right? But I agree with that. And, that's just, a goal scorer's goal, right? Like Perfetti knowing where to be going to the net. Yeah. And I think Ehlers very well knew that he was going to get that rebound. I mean, I don't think Ehlers was expecting to score on that shot. So really nice goal. And so then the Jets are only down 1 goal and we're, around the kind of midway point of the game, midway point of the second period.
Yeah.
And then what happens? Rasmus Kupari, was it Rasmus Kupari?
No, it was
Brendan Dillon. Brendan Dillon.
Yeah,
it was Brendan Dillon tripping his former teammate, Jamie Benn, because of course, Dillon used to play for the Dallas Stars, used to play for the San Jose Sharks as well. And, you're thinking to yourself, the Jets are only down a goal, even though they've been pretty badly outplayed by the Stars in the second period. And then, the power play comes up for the Stars. And I'm sure, you were checking this as well, Joe, that, the Dallas Stars heading into this game had the 29th ranked power play. The Jets, I thought, did a pretty good job too.
Well, they did. Yeah,
they were very close to killing this penalty off. And then late in the power play, Matt Duchene ends up getting the goal here. And, similar to, I think, the first goal that we talked about, the goal that was scored by Thomas Harley, this was just a little bit of soft defensive coverage. Matt Duchene doesn't get picked up. I believe it was Nate Schmidt was the defenseman. It was Dylan DeMello and Nate Schmidt who were on the back end for the Jets. And I'd like to get your take on it, but that's kind of what I saw. Yeah. I just saw, Matt Duchene was a little bit open, and Nate Schmidt was kind of in no man's land there in front of the net, and Nate Schmidt doesn't get picked up, and it's kind of an easy goal for Matt Duchene.
I would say he was a lot open, not a little, a lot. But I think the play was made behind the net with Dadonov and Johnston, right? It was, I think, Johnston or Dadonov, one of the two was behind the net, made the pass to the other, who went behind the net and then passed it out in front. So I think it caught the Jets defensively, going in maybe opposite directions, and then he just slipped it right out in front to Duchene, who was right in tight, and then just put it top corner glove side. So another one, as we said, that Hellebuck really had no chance on.
Yeah, and I would agree with you. Like, Dadonov makes a nice play there. And, the Jets are in good position. That's the thing. Like, they're in good position, but they're just not moving. I guess that would be the best way to describe it, because it was David Gustafsson who was in the middle there. But it's one of those situations where you have to just be a little bit tighter, especially when you have a sniper like Duchene. Like, prior to this game, the game against Columbus, Duchene had 3 points. So that's what we're talking about, right? Like Jason Robertson, Rupe Hintz, Tyler Seguin, Wyatt Johnston, I think you got to throw in there. And then Matt Duchene, like, this Stars team is deep. I actually forgot that Craig Smith was on this team. He's a pretty good player. Yeah. And, he's on the 4th line right now for the Stars. So I think you got to give, Jim Nill a lot of credit here for, strengthening the Stars team. Like, this Stars team, people forget, they were in the West Final last year, and, they have Stanley Cup aspirations. So it's unfortunate that goal came with, I think, 1 second left on the power play. So the Stars will take that one, because we talked about, their power play was 9% headed into this game. And then obviously, the Jets, they played, I think, pretty well to start the third period. You were wondering when the pushback was going to come. And it did come. And I thought the Scheifele line got much better as this game progressed. They were pretty quiet through the first 2 periods, Joe. I think you would agree. Yes. It was really the Nemestikov, Ehlers, Perfetti line that was driving the bus. The Lowry line was pretty good. But you can't necessarily expect that line to score every game. So I think
Why not, Ezzy? Why can't they score every game? Why
not? They have been on most nights. I mean, I think if you look at, you were joking earlier, Joe, about the analytics. Analytically at even strength, I think, that line was maybe the second or third best line in the entire league a couple of games ago, at least. So, I mean, it's I guess not. Comet is saying that he wants your jersey, by the way, Joe. So I'm not sure if you're going to give that one up. You were telling me earlier, it's Tyler Moss on the back. If you remember him, he played for the Moose around 2002, 2003. So I don't think, Comet, you're going to be getting that jersey. I mean, you can message Joe on Twitter. You should be following Joe on Twitter if you're not, by the way. He's got one of the best Twitter accounts. He pulls out the best video clips of the Jets and the Bombers. We call you the sports historian, right, Joe? Because I mean, there's nobody better that knows the Jets from their infancy in the WHA and then 1.0, obviously, and then now 2.0. But yeah, I don't think you're going to be getting that jersey, Comet, but you can keep wishing if you want.
You can try.
Yeah, you can try.
Yeah.
I asked Joe for that jersey too before we went live, and he said no. So,
well, the story is the Moose were going to wear these jerseys on one of those retro nights, and Tyler Moss was going to be the goalie, but he got called up, I guess, by Edmonton, and so never got to wear it, never came back to the Moose. And so I had done some videos for the Moose, and that was sort of my compensation for the videos that I did for this retro night.
I think that's pretty good compensation. I mean, I love, I mean, I'm someone who loves the vintage Jets, whether that's the WHA Jets or the, I guess the early 1.0 Jets or the, Solani era Jets with that logo. Any old Jets logo, Joe, is good for me. So I love that Heritage Classic jersey, but we're going to get into the Jets' second goal here that made it 3-2. And that means we're going to have to give out the Seagram's shot of the game.
The Seagram's shot of the game.
The Seagram's shot of the game is obviously brought to you by our friends at Seagram's. Seagram's purchase Fireball Cinnamon Whiskey. I know, Joe, that's your favorite. Fireball Cinnamon Whiskey, available at all Manitoba liquor marts in all sizes. I personally like a big bottle. I like the 1.1 liter bottle. But make sure you drink responsibly. But
yes,
Seagram's Fireball Whiskey, proud sponsor of the Illegal Curve Hockey Show. We are going to give the Seagram shot of the game to Brendan Dillon, Mr. possibly Rocket Richard. I'm not sure what is going on with Brendan Dillon, but that is now his fourth goal of the year. And, we talked about it a little bit before we went live here. I mean, there's definitely some traffic in front of Scott Wedgwood on this goal. And it's, as you mentioned, Joe, it's not necessarily Winnipeg Jets traffic that maybe screened Wedgwood on this goal.
No, I'm pretty sure it was Tyler Seguin. I was trying to watch it here. I'm unable to go back and watch the replays, after the goal, and they show the replays. But I think it was Tyler Seguin that had cleared out Iafallo, and he was the one that was blocking Wedgwood's vision. And just a great shot from Dillon. I mean, I've seen Josh Morrissey float those ones in from the point in the past, and he just followed suit and found that top corner. And the Jets were right back in it. I mean, I thought after the early penalty kill by the Jets in that third period, they controlled the rest of the game, And I was kind of feeling after they got that second one that there was going to be a third goal.
Yeah, I would agree with that. I think we talked about Mark with about 5 minutes left. Mark Scheifele had a really good scoring chance where Wedgwood made the glove save off of a face-off. And the Jets had some good pressure. They didn't pull Hellebuck till I think there was about 80 seconds left, a minute 20. I was a little bit surprised by that because nowadays you see coaches pulling their goalie with 3 minutes left, 3.5 minutes left. So obviously maybe that's a sign of how much the Jets coaching staff respects the Dallas Stars, because this Dallas Stars team is. I don't want to say they're the best defensive team. I think that might be too bold of a proclamation. You've got teams like Carolina and Vegas who are very good defensively as well. But I mean, they are, I think,
I think disciplined is the word you might be looking for.
Sure. And they're disciplined. And, that's to me where the veteran experience comes in, right? Like they mentioned on the broadcast, Brendan Dillon, it's his birthday in a couple days. So I believe he's turning, it's either 33 or 34. So hopefully, or he was hoping to get, I should say, an early birthday present with the Jets win here. He did get a goal, so that was a nice early birthday present. But there's a lot of guys like, whether you want to look at Ryan Suter on the back end, whether you want to look at Joe Pavelski, 39 years old. I mentioned on this Saturday morning show, I thought, I think that Joe Pavelski is a future Hall of Famer. I mean, you might not agree with that in the chat. Joe is nodding, so I think Joe agrees with me. I mean, it's just, to me, like, longevity. Like, it's one thing to be playing at 39 years old, but he is excelling at 39 years old. Like, he's putting up good offensive numbers. So I think, with Pavelski and Ryan Suter, Jamie Benn, Tyler Seguin, there's a lot of good veteran players on this team. But I mean, look, I think this was a close game, and there was a good pushback from the Jets in the third period, but they just ran out of time. And I think you got to tip your hat to the Stars. I mean, it was that second period where they did all of their damage, and then they hung on for the lead. And, Scott Wedgwood didn't need to steal this game, but he was certainly, very good, considering that, he's definitely doesn't have the same resume as Jake Ottinger.
Yeah. And I think, you want to break it. It was a specialty teams game. That's what cost the Jets, right? The power play goal, shorthanded goal that Dallas got, and the Jets didn't get either of those. So I think, that might, you could say that could have been the difference in the game. But, I see this Jets team as one that's, growing game by game. And, and I thought that was an impressive to me, because usually a Jets team in the past few seasons would kind of fold after
I would agree with that.
Like that happened. Yeah. I mean, earlier this season when they folded against LA, they had a really good first period, really bad second period, and LA just took over the game after that. And there was no pushback from the Jets, but there was a pushback in this game in that third period. So I see that as a positive sign from this team. And they had their chances. They had more than enough chances. Ehlers' shot went off the shoulder of Wedgwood. Nino had a shot, but that had a good scoring chance. But this time there was no big rebound. And you mentioned about the Scheifele shot. I thought he kind of fanned on it, or maybe there was a stick that got in on his stick, because it didn't seem that the puck didn't really come zinging off his stick like you would expect.
I would agree with you. Like, I think you make a lot of good points there about the pushback, and look at, we talked about how good the Dallas Stars are defensively, like, fourth or fifth in the NHL in terms of goals against. So they're not an easy team once they get the lead. And I believe the Jets have not won a game this year when they're losing after 2 periods. Mind you, we're only 14 games into the season. But still, I mean, that's not a statistic that you would like. That also would tell you that the Jets have been leading a lot after 2 periods, if you want to look at it like that, right, Joe? But
yeah, well, that's true. And the second period has been their best. I heard during the telecast, they were talking about the Jets' second period has been their best, which in the past, it's always been their worst period, when they have the long change. And so there's another sign of, sort of somewhat some maturity and some growth by this Jets team. But in the second period, they just got out of sorts defensively, and it cost them, and again,
and like you
don't want to pick on Mark Scheifele, but he was prominent on those 2 goals by Dallas.
Sure, I would agree with that one. And we talked about Wyatt Johnston was the second Dallas goal. And we talked about the third goal scored by Matt Duchene, with 1 second left in the power play. But look, that's all it takes, right? Like, it's a cliche, and you hear this all the time when you're talking about the upper echelon teams like Dallas or Vegas. We mentioned Colorado, who the Jets obviously haven't faced yet. But man, I still go back to what I was telling you before, Joe. Like, I think this would be a fantastic playoff series if the Jets and Stars met in the first round or the second round. I just think these 2 teams are so evenly matched. And yes, you could give the Stars the advantage when it comes to forward depth. I don't know how much of an advantage you would give them. I would probably give them a bigger advantage when it comes to their top 6 defensemen. I think you would agree. Like, Miro Heiskanen, is this not a guy, who could win a Norris Trophy one day? Like, 3rd overall pick in 2017. I think if you redid that draft, I don't know if you're necessarily taking him over Nico Hischier. And obviously Nolan Patrick has had a lot of injury issues, but man, Miro Heiskanen, he's a guy that can play 20 to 25 minutes a night and in all situations. And man,
make it look effortless.
Absolutely. Yes, absolutely. I really like his game. So I think, this was, as advertised, it was a close game. And as you mentioned, the second period was clearly in the Stars' favor, but that's what you like to see. I mean, you want to see that pushback when you're down 2 goals. Oftentimes last year, especially in the 5th game against the Vegas Golden Knights in the first round. I mean, there wasn't much of a pushback. So yes, I think you're not always going to look for moral victories, but I think in this case, early on in the season, I mean, look at they're going to play the Stars another 3 times this year. I mean, they're going to get their chance to get their revenge on the Stars, but you just have to, tip your hat sometimes to a good hockey team. And that's what I tweeted out. I mean, the Dallas Stars are just a good get too ahead of myself because we're only 1 month into the season, but would anybody be that surprised with Jake Ottinger in net if this team went, to all the way to the Stanley Cup final? I really do think this team is that good.
Oh, well, I still think that, Colorado and Vegas,
Sure.
they have at least they have cup experience in terms of winning the cup in the past, 2 seasons. So they're good. I would give them number 3 in the division.
Sure.
In the conference. I put Vegas 1, Colorado still number 2 in my eyes, even though Dallas, I still like Colorado, and Dallas number 3, with right now Vancouver 4 and maybe the Jets 5th.
Okay. No, fair enough. I mean, I feel like we all have our rankings, right? I think Drew and Dave, if they were on the show, they would have their rankings. It's tough to argue against Colorado and Vegas right at the top, right? Like I realize everybody points to, the Avalanche depth not being as good as it was a couple of years ago when they won the cup. But look at Tampa Bay. Like Tampa Bay's still in a playoff spot without their number 1 goalie. And since they won the back-to-back cups, like how many players have they lost? They lost their entire third line, right? Like, so Blake Coleman, Yanni Gourde, I'm forgetting the other guy that was on Barclay Goodrow, maybe. Was he the other guy on that third line? So, I mean, the Lightning have lost a lot of players over the last 3 or 4 years, and they're still a competitive team. I mean, when you've got Kucherov, Point, and Hedman, and then Vasilevsky in net, I think you're always going to be dangerous. But I agree with you. I mean, I think there's a point to be made that the Jets are still just a touch or an inch below the upper echelon teams in the West.
Yeah. And don't go into Tampa for it. Don't forget Isamont.
Oh no, absolutely.
Don't forget him, because I was really upset last year when he was picked up by San Jose. I was a big Michael Isamont fan.
Well, because he was the the quote unquote energy firebug, right? Like he was the guy that, like, the Brandon Tanev 2.0, if you want. As I don't know if you were more upset than Dave Minuk, because Dave Minuk, I mean, he was a big Isamont fan as well. Watching him play a little bit with the Moose as well. But yeah, I think there's a lot of Jets fans that weren't happy to lose Esimont last year. And I think Jonathan Kovacevic was another guy that a lot of Jets fans weren't that happy that the Jets lost on waivers, but it happens, right? Yeah. We're going to head to commercial break, Joe. When we come back, we're going to give away a Tough Duck toque for the hardest hitting comment. There's been lots of good comments. We're going to touch on some of the comments that were coming out of the Jets dressing room. They're starting to filter out a little bit. So stick around. The Blue Bombers game, I think, is starting in about 10 or 15 minutes, maybe less, maybe 2 or 3 minutes. So we're going to try to wrap up the post-game show here in the next 15 to 20 minutes. So everybody's going to tune into the Blue Bombers BC Lions game. So stick around. We will be right back on the Illegal Curve post-game show.
Keeping Winnipeg laughing for over 30 years. Rumors, Canada's longest-running comedy club, bringing you the biggest laughs from the best comedians on the planet. Jerry Seinfeld, Chris Rock, Jon Stewart, Dennis Miller, Brad Garrett, the greats, and all the up-and-comers too. When was the last time you laughed out loud? Make it a great night out with friends, or book your office or birthday party. Even a fundraising event at Rumors. Get all the details and dates on upcoming shows at rumorscomedyclub.com.
Whoa, Ezzy, everything okay? You look stressed.
Of course I'm stressed. We're moving, the house is upside down, the kids failed miserably at packing the fine china, and my life is in chaos. Chaos!
Yes, that does sound like a problem.
What am I going to do?
Ezzy, relax. Rolly's Transfer Moving and Storage is the answer. With 60 years of experience in moving Manitobans and a track record of exemplary customer service, one call to Rolly's and your stress is gone. No job is too big or too small. Just visit Rollies.com and they will take it from there.
Thanks, Dave, and thank you, Rollies Transfer Moving and Storage, online at Rollies.com.
Hey, Drew.
Ezzy, whoa, what a smile!
Yeah, I got my crowns done at Linden Market Dental Center, and they whiten my teeth.
I see.
They're so bright that every time I smile, they go...
We have hockey tonight. Do you have a mouth guard to protect those pearly whites?
I sure do.
Whoa, they even ting through the mouth guard.
Linden Market Dental Center covers all your dental needs from restorative to cosmetic dentistry and will fit you with a sports guard for that active lifestyle. 877 Waverly. See lindenmarketdental.com.
Boston Pizza harnessed Fanalytics to test if the game is better at home or at Boston Pizza. The results are irrefutable. Catch the game at Boston Pizza, powered by Fanalytics.
So you're a pizza person, you married a wing person, but somehow your kids are salad people. You can't pick your fam, but you can pick your BP meal deal, starting from $18.99 for takeout or delivery at bostonpizza.com.
We did it again!
You're on fire, man.
There's power in a handshake after a great game or great deal. It shows professionalism and respect. Two qualities Zappia Group Realty take pride in. You don't build a business where 95% of your clients are referred by others without honesty, integrity, and total dedication to client satisfaction. To sell your home for more in less time, shake hands with Frank and Mauro Zappia of Zappia Group Realty. Get started at zappiagroup.com.
Are you dreaming of your very own backyard rink this winter, but dreading the work involved? Well, stress no longer, because the Rink Guys are here to make it happen. The Rink Guys are Winnipeg's first outdoor skating rink installation and rink maintenance service. The Rink Guys offer free site evaluations and different rink construction options. Plus, they use a custom-sized liner to prevent any damage to your lawn. Lighting packages are also available to help illuminate your rink during those long, dark winter nights. To get your rink started today, visit therinkguys.com.
Welcome back to the Illegal Curve postgame show. Ezra Ginsburg, your host, and I'm joined by legendary Winnipeg sports broadcaster Joe Pascucci from Toronto, filling in for Dave Minuk and Drew Mindell. 3-2, the Dallas Stars defeat the Winnipeg Jets. The Stars now move 3 points ahead of the Winnipeg Jets in the Central Division. So obviously not the result the Jets wanted. They were hoping to get that extra point in the third period, but I think we have to give a lot of credit to this Dallas Stars team. We're about 40 minutes into the show here. I think the Bombers game may have just started. So hopefully, people are, maybe they've got one eye on the Bombers game and then they've got the other eye on Joe and I right now. Just continuing that kind of idea that we were talking about earlier about the Jets and the Stars, the special teams, as you mentioned earlier, Joe. But I think ultimately you can say that this game just kind of fell apart a little bit for the Jets in the second period. They went down a couple of goals, and then they weren't able to, get the extra one. Brendan Dillon makes it interesting. A couple good scoring chances in the third period, coming from Kyle Connor and Mark Scheifele. But at the end of the day, we talked about it. I mean, the season's early. The Jets are going to get a crack at the Stars 3 more times this year. Yeah. And I'm sure a lot of these games are going to be 1-goal games.
Yeah. Besides the second period, as we've mentioned numerous times, it was not a bad game for the team. Right. So, you can't win them all. You'd like to, but you can't win them all. As long as you can see some, signs of progress and some development. I know that the Jets have a lot of veteran players, but they also have a lot of young players as well. And it's good to see Perfetti score, a goal not on the power play, and as you mentioned, that line, played well. The top line, played well in the third period. They had their struggles in the first two. It's just a step along the way. And I know we're getting, was it the Tough Duck, the comment of the day or the hot take of the day?
Yeah, it's the Tough Duck hardest hitting comment, brought to you by our friends at Tough Duck. Work hard, play hard, family run business for over 80 years. And I think you're going to like this comment that we're going to go to. So here we go.
The Tough Duck hardest hitting comment.
As I mentioned, Joe, here I had it here. I gotta find it again. It's from Comet, who earlier wanted that Jets jersey, but we're gonna give Comet tonight's Tough Duck hardest hitting comment. It's not related to the game, but I really like this comment. I'll read it out loud here. Scooch, who of course is Joe's nickname, launched the careers for a lot of well-known broadcasters. Joe's humility to permit the loose leash and let the on-air talent to shine over him. Classy. I really like that. I certainly, like a lot of people around my age, grew up watching you on CKND and Global, and then over the years when you were still living in Winnipeg, we got to know you. So I love that comment from Comet. I could have given it, I could have given the comment to somebody who actually commented about the game, but Comet has been really good so far. So Comet, send me an email, Ezra at Illegal Curve. I think Comet might have actually won last year a Tough Duck toque, but Comet, send me an email, Ezra at illegalcurve.com with your mailing address info, and Tough Duck will ship out a toque to you directly. Like, I got to say, Joe, like back in the day when we were on TSN radio, we got to do some giveaways, but this Tough Duck hardest hitting comment toque giveaway is the best, because especially now that it's, snowing and cold in Winnipeg, it gives me a lot of pleasure to give away toques every game, because people need those, right? Like, you lived in Winnipeg for a really long time. That, you got to have at least, 5 toques at all times in your house during a Winnipeg winter.
They seem to vanish somehow. You may have to wear more than one toque on some of those days. Yes. I have to say, I miss a lot of things about Winnipeg. I do not miss -40. I do not miss -40.
I can't blame you. I think there's a reason why, this time every year people start, deciding how much money do I want to spend to go somewhere hot? Like, am I going to go, am I going to do Mexico this year? Am I going to do California? I agree with you on that one. I think they still get winter there though in Toronto. I know it still gets to like, -15, -20, right?
Right. So let's see if I can win a toque here. So my Tough Duck comment of the day would be, I did not understand why after the Dillon goal, right, when the momentum that was now in the Jets' favor, why did they put on the fourth line, right? And that was immediately when Kasperi took the penalty.
Sure.
Which killed some momentum that they had built up. I was kind of confused as to why, Scott Arniel would play the fourth line at that point. I thought you would come back with your top line or with the Ehlers and the Mestikov line and keep that pressure on, not sort of put the fourth line on just to defend what you're down a goal. You need to score another goal to tie. So that was my only kind of like in that third period, like, what are you guys doing?
Yeah, no, I think that's a good point. I think, that is a momentum killer, right? Like, especially when it comes that, I forget exactly, I'd have to pull it up, but, it came, I think it was, like you said, the next shift. So it was like 10 seconds, 20 seconds after Brendan Dillon cut the Stars lead to 1 goal. So, yeah, I think, the fourth line was good. We talked about I believe we talked about the shorthanded chance that Nemesnikov? Barron and Nemesnikov on the
I think there was they did have a chance on that. Yeah.
Yeah. So I think Morgan Barron I think quietly had a really strong game. And we've certainly talked about it on previous post-game shows when Gabe Vilardi comes into the lineup, which we expect to be in the next, 2 or 3 weeks. It's probably going to be David Gustafsson, who's the odd man out on the fourth line. And it's unfortunate because he scored a couple goals and he's looked really good. He can kill penalties. He's playing wing, but he can play center. But I agree, Joe. That was, in that situation, you expect either the Ehlers line or the Scheifele line to come out, and they decided to go with the fourth line, and it ended up, biting them.
Yeah. 20 seconds later.
Yeah. So there you go. And obviously, Dallas doesn't score on the power play, but it did kill some momentum. And that was with, 9 or 10 minutes left in the game. Right. So, you like to see how much Scott Arniel and Rick Bowness have been using the fourth line this year, but sometimes you it's a situation where you might be overthinking it a little bit. And I know that the Jets were struggling when it came to faceoffs. Like, I think,
they were,
it was around
really
70%.
bad.
Yeah, and Matt Duchene is a really good faceoff guy. Radek Faksa is a really good faceoff guy. I think he was around like 80% or something tonight. So maybe that had something to do with it. Lowry obviously, is the Jets' best faceoff guy. But yeah, I'm not sure if I have an answer why the fourth line went out after the Brendan Dillon goal. Maybe that was just because they hadn't been out there for a little bit. But sometimes you just have to say the Jets came close, but not close enough. I go back to that Scheifele chance off of a faceoff with about 5 minutes left, where it was a great wrist shot, quick release and Scott Wedgwood just made the save. So again, you got to tip your hat to the Stars and also Wedgwood, who, you know, he played well enough to give the Stars a chance to win. And, you know, like you said, I mean, it would be nice if you could have goals from, you know, the Lowry, Niederreiter, Appleton line every night, but that line, you know, was just okay. I think possession wise, they were the Jets' best line at even strength, maybe the second.
They got better as the game went along, as did a lot of them.
Sure. And again, like, not every single game. Like, I think when you look at the previous two games, I think you'd agree, against St. Louis and Nashville, I mean, the Jets just, I mean, they dominated. I mean, it was a more talented team, a better skating team at even strength. And obviously, you know, they've got power play goals in the last couple of games, but, you know, they weren't able to. The power play to me looked kind of similar to the way it was looking earlier in the season. Like the first, you know, let's say 7, 8, 9 games, there was just not enough shots, not enough movement. It kind of looked a little bit slower. So I think that, you know, that would have been nice if the Jets could have cashed in on one of their power play opportunities. But again, I think you have to give the Stars credit. They played a really good game tonight.
Yeah. Well, the Stars, like the Jets, play a more passive penalty kill, right? And the Stars are a more aggressive team on the penalty kill, right? And they would go after the player on the Jets who had the puck. And in the past, that's how you used to beat the Jets power play. It was attack the guy with the puck because he's going to make a mistake with, you know. And I think the Dallas was definitely the more aggressive team. I thought today when they were killing penalties than the Jets were, and not that was the reason Dallas got a power play goal. I think that was just an unfortunate break and a smart play by Dallas, you know, making the pass from behind the net to another player out in front who goes behind the net. It passes to another player in front and bang. So
yeah, absolutely. And we should mention, if I'm not sure if we mentioned this earlier, we mentioned that the Stars are a top 5 team when it comes to allowing goals. I think it was 4th in the NHL in terms of goals against, but also the Stars PK was ranked 1st and still is 1st because of course they were 100% today. So I mean, look, at the Stars are a good defensive team. The power play, I mean, has not been good. I mean, it'll help that they got a goal today, but you know, if their power play can even be, you know, middle of the pack, I mean, that's going to make them a more dangerous team. So, you know, we were disagreeing a little bit on, you know, the top teams in the West, but I think we do agree that at the very least, the Stars are probably, you know, a top 2 team in the Central Division, right? With Colorado either being 1 or 2, depending on how high you are on the Stars. And I really do like the Stars. I mean, I don't know if you know this, but a lot of people that watch the show know I'm a big Devils fan. So it's not like I have skin in the game when it comes to the Dallas Stars. I'm just giving them a lot of credit. I think, you know, Jim Nill has built a really good team in Dallas. I think Pete DeBoer is a really good coach. I mean, there's a reason why Pete DeBoer doesn't remain unemployed for a long time. He did a good job back in the day with the Devils and the Sharks. And now he's doing Vegas, we should mention as well. And now he's got this Stars team, you know, humming along pretty well. 9-3-1 now are the Dallas Stars. I think 9-3-1. They've got 19 points. So if that math adds up, Joe, they're first place in the Central. That's what matters.
It does.
Yeah. So we're gonna wrap up today's show. The Bombers are, I believe it's 3-0. The Lions got a field goal. So the Bombers Lions CFL West Division final is underway. It's early. It's in the first quarter. But BC has got on the board first. They're up 3-0. I don't think anybody's too worried about that. But
and the Bombers are going to be first and goal from about the 8-yard line.
There you go. I don't have. I'm in my basement here in River Heights, Joe, and I don't have my TV in this room. It's in the other room, but I'm definitely going to be watching that game. So I appreciate that. We appreciate that update. Everybody who's watching the post-game show, and we want to thank everyone for joining us on today's post-game show. Most importantly, Joe, you're a good friend of ours. You know, we've had you on the show many times. Hopefully you'll come on the Saturday morning show with us sometime in the near future. But thank you so much for filling in for Drew and Dave, who are obviously slacking. So we're picking up the slack for those guys while they gallivant around town. So before we head out, want to give a big thanks to our sponsors of the Illegal Curve Hockey Show. They make this show possible. Rumors Restaurant and Comedy Club, Dr. Les Rikus and the Linden Market Dental Center, Grid Park, Tough Duck. You saw the hardest hitting comment. We gave it to Comet, who had the great great comment about Joe Pascucci, Boston Pizza, Rolly's Transfer, Seagram's, the rink guys. And I'm not sure if you saw this recently, Joe. Got to give a huge shout out to Farmery Brewery. I'm not sure if that's available in Ontario. We recently came out with the Illegal Curve branded Farmery Light beer. It's available in Winnipeg at 2 Donald. You can also order it online. So I don't think it's available in Ontario. In fact, I know it's not, but we may be able to ship some to you.
Well, I was hoping that the compensation for my appearance today was going to be a 6-pack.
No, we can do better than that, Joe. We can give you a whole 2-4. A 6-pack isn't going to cut it. It's a long winter.
It's harder to ship, right?
Sure.
It's harder to get into the mailbox.
Sure. We'll hook you up. But yeah, also have to give out, I wanted to get that in there, Farmery Brewery. It's been about a week since the Illegal Curve Farmery Light beer has been in stores, as I mentioned, at 2 Donald. If you're not quite sure where that is, that's very close to Confusion Corner. So head down to their Farmery retail outlet and you can pick up some Illegal Curve beer. It's only going to be available for a few months, I believe. I'm not sure exactly. I mean, if they sell out of it, that's a good thing for us. But we have to give a shout out to Farmery Brewery. And as I mentioned, thank you so much, Joe, for joining us today on the Illegal Curve post-game show. Thanks for everybody for watching. I know a lot of people might have logged out there to catch the Bombers Lions. The Lions, of course, as we mentioned, are up 3-0 right now.
It could be, no, it's about to be 7-3 for the Bombers.
Okay, there you go. So who got the touchdown?
There's a live update.
Okay, who got the touchdown for the Bombers?
I think it was Brady.
I think it was right Brady. On. Yeah. Or should we be calling him Mr. MOP, Joe?
Oh, yes. He should have been. He should be the MOP because he has been the most consistent CFL player this season. I know Chad Kelly was great and has been great. He wasn't great today, obviously, but once they clinched first place, the Argos, and they stopped playing him a lot, I think that ruined his season.
Sure.
I think he lost a little bit of his edge. And today he was just really god awful.
Well, and I'm obviously biased, but I think, you will appreciate this. The fact that, it was the first time that you had a Canadian with 1,000 receiving yards and a Canadian with 1,000 rushing yards. The fact that was the first time it's happened for 2 Canadians, but they're also both Manitoban. So I think that's pretty awesome that, for the first time in CFL history, it was 2 Manitobans in Nick Dembski and Brady Oliveira. So regardless if Brady Oliveira wins the MOP, which I think we both agree he should, he's having a good start to this game and he's probably going to get himself in that end zone again today.
A quick comment, because I know you're rushing. I would almost prefer Brady not to win it because there is a long history of CFL MOPs winning who lose the Grey Cup game.
Okay, fair enough. Yeah, okay.
Last year.
Okay, I'm with you. I would rather have the Grey Cup than the MOP. I mean, in an ideal world, Brady wins the MOP and the Bombers win the Grey Cup, but I'll give that to you, Joe. I mean, I don't want to. I think most Bomber fans will take the championship over the MOP. So I think at the very least he's a finalist, right? So I think he'll take that. So big thanks to legendary Winnipeg sports broadcaster Joe Pascucci for joining us. Follow Joe Pascucci on X/Twitter if you're not, because Joe always brings the best Winnipeg Jets and Winnipeg Blue Bombers history highlights. So big thanks to Joe, and big thanks to everybody for listening and watching. Listening because that would be on the podcast later, but watching because this obviously was Super Saturday with the Jets game in the afternoon and then the Bombers Lions CFL West Division final that's going on right now. So thanks everybody for watching, and we will see you again Tuesday. The Jets play the New Jersey Devils at home. The 5-game homestand continues. So we'll see everybody Tuesday night. Thanks so much for watching the Illegal Curve postgame show.
Thanks for listening to this broadcast from Illegal Curve Hockey. For more great Illegal Curve content, subscribe to the Illegal Curve YouTube channel, follow at Illegal Curve on Twitter, Facebook, and Instagram, and visit your online home for hockey in Winnipeg, illegalcurve.com.